what is it that you're actually building?
So I am building the world's first iOS Wayland Compositor,
Mhm.
and that was the main goal. But there are actually several other reasons of why I built this, but basically it's just a Wayland Compositor and it runs on different platforms other than Linux.
Okay. I guess why? Why is a good place to go from there?
So we can always run a full desktop environment on uh, DRM and stream that over with some VNC or RDP.
Mhm.
And that's always very fine and good. But when you're on a mobile screen and you want access to your applications, having those vertical bars, like you're watching a full screen, like widescreen movie, and you just get those black bars, it can be very annoying, and it just doesn't match your screen aspect ratio. And I wanted a way to solve that.
Mhm.
And I've been using a lot of post-market OS, and I know that there's actually been a lot of optimizations to having these Wayland clients just run directly on a phone screen. So I was thinking, well, we've got like Termux and we can use that on Android, but we need something on iOS. And so I started thinking about how the heck am I going to stream over Wayland applications directly to my phone? And that's when it started.
You mentioned Termux there. I noticed a newer project that came along. Someone has Arch Linux running in a box on Android, so it's just a full Arch Linux experience. I've not tried it myself, but it does seem really cool.
That's awesome. I have also tried some other Termux related things. I
Mm.
was able to get up XFCE running. They actually have different ways to go about it depending on if you can root your phone or not. Just like enhances the speed if you can root.
Mm.
Um, but I noticed there's like nothing available for iOS. And actually, uh, I just happen to know a lot about iOS and I know of all of its limitations. Pretty
Mm.
much you can't do anything without Apple saying, okay, go ahead.
Mm.
So.
So I guess with that in mind, like what limitations are there in place that would get in the way of what you're trying to do here, or maybe help you in some ways?
So it turns out when you want to actually run more than one process, that's not really possible. Pretty much every library you bundle within your application needs to be statically linked.
Mm.
And as a result, you can't really load things like graphics drivers
Mm.
or you can't spawn new applications. And this could work if you had your application as a separate application, but that just doesn't do it for me. I want to be able to integrate a full desktop environment on my phone
Mm.
and use package management and all that. There's also code signing problems where you end up not being able to run unsigned arbitrary code. And I've also found a way to solve that. Um, but that's like the biggest hurdle that I've figured out. It's definitely possible to get behind. And going forward, I just know that this is something that's going to be side loaded. It's going to work on jailed devices. You do not have to jailbreak to use this.
Okay, okay. Because I know that's like I'm not like in the Apple ecosystem at all. Why do people tend to jailbreak their devices? Like, what are people trying to do when they're doing that?
So Apple's very restrictive on the way applications work and behave, and most of the time they want you to go through the Apple App Store, which is only like pre-vetted, like pre-approved applications that work exactly how they behave. And they put every single application into this little sandbox,
Mhm.
and they prevent certain entitlements to regular developers. So you can't have access to things like the screen, like frame buffers, VPNs. You have to pay for all that, and there's this really long, extreme difficult review process, and pretty much everything that would work for Termux on iPhone is just going to immediately get rejected. And so Apple's developers are just going to have to deal with going through that, or they can sideload.
Mhm.
And a lot of times there are still limitations if you're not able to jailbreak, and that's when jailbreak comes in. So if you jailbreak your phone, you're able to pretty much do anything you want. You can theme your entire screen. You can like change icons. You can run your own applications from pretty much anywhere. There's this whole idea of code injection. So whatever's running, you can inject certain code and run that arbitrarily. And in many cases, that would solve a lot of Wawona's issues with not being able to run unsigned binaries and stuff.
Mhm. I do like the concept of jailbreaking, just like even a thing that exists is like, jailbreaking, as in running software on my computer.
Yeah, jailbreaking has been a thing for a while. I've absolutely been in love with it since its inception. Really, I've been using jailbreaking since like 2020 or 2012
Mm-hmm.
with the first device I got, and I actually have a lot of iOS devices just laying around that
Mm.
are jailbreakable and also can run Linux. So maybe a project for
Oh,
another day to get
I didn't know
Linux
that was a
going on
thing.
there. Yeah, you can actually get a pre-boot execution environment going and just boot up the Linux kernel just directly. So
That's actually pretty cool.
yeah, there's some work with Asahi Linux as well. They've actually added the device trees for some of the older devices that are able to do that.
Mhm.
And one of my goals someday is to maybe port over some graphics drivers to get on those older devices.
Awesome, awesome. So with Wawona, where do
Mhm.
you even I guess where did you start with this project? Where did you approach it from? How did you even realize something like this was going to be possible?
Well, actually, I'm a macOS tweak developer, and I spend pretty much all my free hobby time outside of school and work just making tweaks for macOS. And my biggest aim is always to bring Linux customizations to the Mac. And a lot of people tell me I should just install Linux. And I actually had an older MacBook that didn't have enough storage space to do both Linux and Mac. And because it's an M1, you cannot just wipe macOS directly. There needs to be macOS on there. And because I like Xcode, well, actually, that's a lie. Because I need Xcode to compile for iOS, it requires about 80 gigabytes of storage space. So having just base specs on the M1 Mac of 256 storage space, splitting that in half, I've run out of storage so fast.
Mhm.
So my goals have been, well, let's just figure out how do I bring Linux customizations to the Mac. And I started with some really cool like window customization tweaks, like adding borders and changing colors,
Mhm.
tinting everything, the ability to like change the behavior of how windows behave. I made a tiling window manager at one point, and as some time progressed, I figured out, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could just get Wayland apps running directly on the Mac and integrate them directly into the environment?
Mhm.
And I found all these limitations with using XQuartz. Like you cannot use Linux apps and have them scale with Retina, and because it's using Quartz or the XQuartz, um, X11 is not compatible with macOS compositing, so you can't really get tiling
Mhm.
directly. Like you can't just integrate it into the desktop directly. And so using tiling window managers, I immediately found, holy crap, this needs to be solved.
Mhm. Before we move on
So
from that, probably should explain what XQuartz is for anyone who doesn't know about it.
XQuartz is just an X11. XQuartz is just an X11
Server.
backend for macOS. Yeah, server. You can just run your applications directly, or a lot of times there's no native macOS ports of any X11 server
Mhm.
software, and you can't. Like the most I've seen is like Xterm and XIs and some of the sample stuff. But it's
Mhm.
been so long since anyone has ever wanted to use X11 on Mac, so we just don't have anything, and we end up just doing like Linux and then rendering it to the screen directly. And
Mhm.
people complain because their screens are using Retina, and that's basically Mac OS scales everything two times, and then as a result, you have a really large screen, something like 4K
Mhm.
almost, and it zooms in because it's scaled twice as much, and it uses twice as many pixels as it would for every single pixel,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you end up getting a really sharp image, but causes conflicts with font sizes and stuff in X11 or Xquartz, and then you
Mhm.
just get blurry font all the time, so it's almost not usable.
Right, right. So it's like
Yeah,
if you really need to, it does exist, but you're probably better off like, remoting into into a Linux system and doing it like that.
exactly. Yeah, And I have ran experiments using XQuartz, and I thought it was really cool. But for practical application, it's probably just not there.
Mhm, mhm.
And if you've experienced any troubles with xrandar, you know it can be really challenging to troubleshoot and figure out how the heck it's supposed to align with multiple displays. And as soon as you run into that display issue and incompatibilities, you're trying to like tile windows into a screen space that's not even where your displays are aligned, and it's just not fun.
Yeah, I've my layout's always been real funky. So Xrand had always caused me problems. So I run two vertical monitors, but they don't
Mm.
align at the bottom. So the top of one monitor aligns with the top of the middle. The bottom of the right aligns with the bottom of the right side. So it creates this like, I guess, yeah, sort of weird setup that just causes like it causes problems. I've
Mhm.
explained why I do this before. Every time that people see it, they get very confused. Um, I have my reasons. They're not reasons that make sense for anyone else, but I have my reasons. Wayland certainly made that less less breaky.
Yeah, and so XQuartz is just not able to detect where the heck the displays are and
Mhm,
set it up correctly and just not render stuff outside of your screens.
mhm,
Um, you'd lose your windows all the time, and it's
mhm,
just
mhm,
not fun. So I wanted to solve that, and I wanted everything to work on the Mac as well.
mhm,
And so pretty soon, my Wayland Compositor for iOS started to be a Wayland Compositor for macOS as well.
mhm, mhm.
And when I started this, I was originally thinking, oh, these are just going to be like regular macOS windows. And then I found out you can render client side decoration as well. And that's just kind of trippy.
Yeah, so when you do this on Linux, like everything is sort of built around the fact that this is possible. Like the addition of server side decorations is this additional protocol that most people adopt, but is or most desktops adopt, but is still something that is like core to it. What what happens on macOS here? Do you get like double decorations? Like how do you like get through this situation?
So I just almost constantly get double decorations. I do have a new force server side decorations toggle that you can turn on for figuring out how to just render macOS window only.
Mhm,
And it's really interesting because I have to dig into the protocol and figure out how it works, which I kind of just don't understand right now.
mhm.
Um, it is tricky, but every time I see it and it just renders and behaves like a regular macOS application with macOS title bars and the macOS traffic lights, it's just really kind of trippy to me to see a Linux app rendered directly with a view of the app directly inside a macOS window. It's really just trippy for me.